the man who was exonerated after being falsely accused, convicted of killing Malcolm X, sues for millions. All right, put up the picture full mass. We have been covering this as the story has developed over time. So 85-year-old Muhammad Aziz, who was exonerated for the murder of the civil rights activist Malcolm X, is now suing the FBI on allegations the agency hid evidence of the actual killers and proof of his actual innocence. Now he's suing, but this stuff is already basically on record. As Atlanta Black Star reports, he claims the agency engineered his cover-up, this cover-up to protect and preserve, quote, the scope, nature, and activities of its counterintelligence operations while weakening the civil rights movement, COINTELPRO. The $40 million lawsuit filed by Mr. Muhammad Aziz alleges the FBI, including then Director J. Edgar Hoover, intentionally caused the presentation of false evidence against, concealed a trove of evidence, and orchestrated fundamentally unfair legal proceedings against Mr. Muhammad Aziz. At Hoover's behest, the FBI's counterintelligence program, also known as COINTELPRO, enabled agents to infiltrate US political and social movements, completely unconstitutional, by the way. Hoover's aim was to, quote, expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, and otherwise neutralize Black activist groups, according to one decades-old FBI report. The suit also claims the FBI carried out concerted efforts alongside the New York Police Department to suppress the integrity of the investigation into Malcolm X's murder and exchanged a network of information and evidence. Muhammad Aziz, a US Navy veteran and a 26-year-old father of two at the time, was arrested for Malcolm X's death alongside another accused killer, Khalil Islam. The civil rights leader was murdered on the 21st, of February 1965. He was preparing to give a speech at the Audubon Ballroom. This was in Upper Manhattan when it happened. So Mr. Aziz spent 20 years in prison for this false conviction. Mr. Islam served 22 years but died in prison in 2009. Islam's estate filed what's called a companion suit, $40 million lawsuit. Their lawsuits claim both men were attractive targets to pin the crime on because of their affiliation with the Nation of Islam, and also because they did not have many alibi witnesses. They had some, but it wasn't as if a whole crowd could vouch for their whereabouts, all right? Put them up in a hearing, okay, to vacate their convictions. Then DA Cyrus R. Vance Jr. claimed FBI employees and the NYPD, quote, this is coming from the then chief prosecutor, quote, intentionally concealed. But damn, that sounds like a crime, does it not? Intentionally concealed records of witnesses, some of whom were FBI informants. Those things would have had to come to the forefront as evidence during a trial. Who failed to identify Mr. Islam and implicated other subjects and suspects, end quote. All right. Mujahid Abdul Halim, AKA Thomas Hagen, one of the men who shot Malcolm X, testified in 1966 that Aziz and Islam had nothing to do with the murder. Malcolm X was killed in 1965. This man said these individuals your government has arrested had nothing to do with it. Halim confessed he and 4 other men were involved in the fatal shooting, but never identified his co-conspirators. However, in the lawsuit, it alleges that the FBI decided to conceal the evidence, pointing to another suspect named William Bradley, who fired a shotgun blast at Malcolm X because the agency had a, quote, significant ongoing relationship with Bradley. Aziz and Islam both told police they were at home at the time with their families. Aziz was home recovering from a leg injury that he sustained after being beaten by police a month before the murder of Malcolm X. The complaint also alleges that the FBI coerced witnesses into giving false and materially misleading statements to prosecutors in their sworn testimony, and claims that the weapon Halim used to shoot Malcolm X was recovered by an FBI informant named Ronald Timberlake. Timberlake reportedly delivered the gun to the FBI, and agents then handed it off to the NYPD. New York City and the state of New York did award $26 million to Aziz and Islam's estate to settle lawsuits over misconduct from police and Manhattan district attorneys in their convictions. Okay. Payment not nearly enough, obviously. Okay. You took so much away. I'm talking about the governments involved, not just one, multiple agencies involved, in order to pin the murder of Malcolm X to two individuals who had nothing to do with it. All right. Now, you got some money, allocate it. There's a suit now for $40 million with a more robust and complete narrative of what actually happened. Names are highlighted here. When will the people who were involved, some of them are still alive, when are they going to be indicted? Everything cited is illegal, all of it. Even when the DA stood up and publicly proclaimed that the FBI did this, which by the way was a bold move. That DA did not engage the FBI and arrest them. It takes more than one or two people to pull off something this massive and this corrupt. It takes an entire culture of individuals working in coordination with the other, multiple agencies, multiple governmental operations, multiple governmental leaders who were involved in this massive and high-ranking cover-up and crime. All right, Waz, thoughts here?
Man, I just hope this brother and his family and their estates are able to get some level of restitution. I think it's important for folks to understand that Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam, despite what their reputation is in mainstream media, this is a conservative Black organization. And never be surprised when Black conservatives, Black as they may be, are in collaboration with the authorities to stamp out and put down Black dissidents and Black radicals. It's no different from what happened to Malcolm X. This was a collaboration between the state and the very top of the organization of the Nation of Islam. There's been incredible reporting around this. This isn't rumor or conjecture. This was collaboration between the FBI and the state. And you know what I would tell people now is that the state has realized that freaking violently murdering dissidents is bad for business and a terrible look. They now just buy them off.
Man, the purchase power of the American government is quite massive. And if you're willing to sell out, that means you have a price. And now they just have to figure out what it is. Very unfortunate. We've seen good leaders become corrupt because of that process.